you doing there? Yeah, we're just starting. Okay. Sound test, sound test. 1, 2, 3, 4. Good. Okay. Do you need me to still make noise though? Okay. Alright, cheers.
down from 5.
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of IQ, my name is Andrew Williams. I'd like to welcome you to this evening's talk. I hope you've had a chance to look around the exhibition. If you haven't, there will be an opportunity after the talk, so please don't worry. Also, we will have some refreshments afterwards, and Gilbert and George are very happy to sign catalogues and posters, should you wish. A couple of things. We have the talk is being live streamed with Garage Magazine. That's garagemag.com. And then, if you could please remember to switch off your mobile phones now, that would be fantastic for everyone's enjoyment. I'm very pleased to introduce Michael Bracewell, who has very kindly agreed to interview Gilbert and George. Michael's a writer and cultural commentator who has written a fantastic catalogue essay that accompanies the exhibition. So, without further ado, Michael Bracewell.
Hello. Hi, good evening. Thank you all very much indeed for coming, particularly on such a hot evening. I'm just going to give a very, very brief introduction to this talk. I think my job really is to say as little as possible and to hopefully encourage Gilbert and George to talk as much as possible. One thing I did want to mention is that Gilbert and George asked if anybody wants to chip in at any point during this conversation with a question of their own or to make a point, then you really are most welcome. It's not a closed conversation. Do feel free to ask, join in if you want to. I don't know how many of you had a chance to look at this exhibition of the scapegoating pictures, but one of the things that immediately struck me when I started looking at these pictures, while they were being made, in fact, was I remembered back in the late 1970s when I was working in a bank in the City of London. One afternoon I went off and I saw some of the pictures that Gilbert and George were making then, which were called the Dirty Words pictures. I don't know how many of you have seen any of the Dirty Words pictures from '77, but they are stark, poetic, immediate. They're full of portent, but they're also so entirely real. They communicated to me instantly exactly what it felt like to be on the streets of London, working in a boring job, going to the places you go to, being in a city at a particular time. I think now, with these scapegoating pictures, you can see again how the art of Gilbert and George has a way, it's almost like it's psychic or something. It seems to tune in to not just the reality of the modern world, but the consciousness of the modern world. At the moment, we're living in a society which seems at times very conflicted. There's an awful lot of blame being hurled around from one faction to another. There's an awful lot of complications with regards to issues of multi-faith, multiculture, dense technology, acceleration. These pictures communicate all of that, I think. It's a very vivid and real experience to look at them. So without any further ado, I'm going to stop and just introduce Gilbert and George and let them do the rest. So Gilbert and George, please. George. One of the first things we wanted to know actually was how many people here have been to a talk by Gilbert and George before?
Oh, quite a lot.
So, starting straight away with the scapegoating pictures, I know that it seems probably maybe a bit too obvious to talk in terms of inspirations, but was there a point of inspiration for these pictures?
Yes, we think it's been a very, very long journey, starting probably, as far as we can work out, in 2005, when we found a poster on Brick Lane, which had a very alarming text, and we put it up in our studio, and friends and colleagues who saw it thought it was amusing, or that it was a send-up, or that it was a scare tactic. It was so obviously evil that people thought it must be something else. And from then until now has been the joke. We've made other pictures in the meantime, because that was when it all started.
And that is that picture over there. That's the one that we found, a poster, and we kept in the studio for many, many years, and then we always looked at it. And one day, by accident, we started to walk up and down Brick Lane, and we started to find these little canisters that looked like bombs. You know? We were totally fascinated because we never saw them before, and they were all behind Brick Lane in some way, hiding away.
They were in strange streets like Grey Eagle Street, where there are no offices and no flats. So people park their cars at night, and you find human excrement there, you find orange peel, and these little whippets, or hippie crack, as they're called. And we were fascinated by that. Why would people go to that little spot? Probably for prostitutes, also for drinking, and also for these little canisters. We were absolutely fascinated. And then it spread out from those back streets into the more respectable streets. They appeared all along Brick Lane, and then in Cheshire Street, and all the other streets, Hanbury Street, even in front of the vicarage.
And it was very interesting because it was the beginning of us trying to make new pictures, no? So we always we are taking images, of the material that speaks to us, no? So this little monk spoke to us because we never saw them before. So then we took, I mean, thousands and thousands of different images around us. And then we started to take images of Brick Lane or Commercial Street, where all the maniacs on bicycles are, no? And we thought that's fascinating because we never saw some, what we call, hysterical people on bikes. And then we started to walk down Whitechapel, and then we started to see this extraordinary new way of people, like ladies with burqas that we never saw before. After all, we have been there for nearly 50 years, and that for us was totally amazing because we never saw it. And so we started to take images of Whitechapel and different people and all the stuff, even when it was quite difficult because they tried to stop us all the time.
It was very good. There was one wonderful moment when we were walking on the very ordinary, boring, not special Valence Road near us. It connects Bethnal Green with Whitechapel, and we were carrying a camera, and suddenly two well-dressed young men, probably from Bangladesh, appeared, and pointing the hand, not the finger, but the hand towards us, said, "You will need permission for that. This is an Islamic district. You will need permission." And then we realized that we were doing the right research. And we also were fascinated because when we watch the television, we see bombs, and then you see First World War programs with the shell cases cracking out. They're the same scale as these. Just on the television, they're just that big. So these little bombs, as we began to think of them as, just became part of that danger in a way.
Yes, but we were not when we started out, we didn't know where we are going, no? Because we didn't start out to make these pictures. The pictures made themselves because of halfway through all this new material came to in front of our eyes, and that's how we always make pictures. No? We let the material come towards us, no? Focusing more towards us, and then we see a new world, but we never ask so many questions. We only feel they are right. This is right for us to do.
Yeah, I know that you responded very positively to that quotation from the great Victorian architect Pugin, where he says it's not a style but a principle. Is this true of Gilbert & George, you think, as well? And if so, in what way do you relate to that statement?
We've always felt that it seems very obvious, but it still is an enormous gulf between form and content. We've always felt that you can have, obviously, visuals and colors and shapes, but they should serve the meaning. They shouldn't be there to be nice in their own right. We want to speak to the viewer about all of those feelings and thoughts and realities that lie within all of us wherever we live in the world. We are dealing with death,
Hope,
life,
fear,
sex,
money,
race,
religion.
and we want to circle around how it is in the modern world. As Gilbert says, they more or less make themselves the pictures. These pictures made themselves more than any other pictures we made before. They almost told us where they wanted to go. They told us that they didn't want any blue. They told us they didn't want any green. And we do believe that there is a force. Once you think and feel for a subject, there is a natural force within you that makes sure you go the right way with it.
Yeah.
But we call it the moral dimension.
Yes.
That we always did that because we feel it is part of new morality. Right? We're trying to, what is important, what is good and what is bad, that is changing all the time. That's why we call the picture, what we call the moral dimension. Right? And that's very interesting because you don't only have to walk the streets of London. We go up in the 5 o'clock when we're exhausted, put on Al Jazeera, that's it. The whole world is up in smoke. You know? And that's fascinating to us. And it's all religious wars are going on at the moment. Doesn't matter whether it's Africa or what you call in Far East and what you call, and in Arab countries, they're all religious wars. And we even feel like the Christians are trying to beef it up more and more now, like in America and all the stuff. And we feel that once you are part of religion, you can never be friendly to another person.
I mean,
That's why our motto is
Ban religion
and decriminalize sex. We always feel that the moral dimension is always revealed to us. Once we've come across a thought or feeling or subject, sooner or later it will show us. For instance, the little bombs or whippets or hippie whatever you want to call them, we found out long after we'd made the whole collection that nitrous oxide, which they contain, was identified by Joseph Priestley. We named one of our pictures after him. And he was an 18th century, handsome, educated, elegant, sophisticated man, a free thinker, a theologian, and a great experiment with early electricity. And he identified nitrous oxide. He had laughing gas parties with his friends, but he also realized it was very good for use in childbirth and in medical situations. And he had slightly different ideas from the accepted Christian thought from the Anglicans. And in that way, he was immediately punished and beaten. They burnt his little church down. He had to escape to America. So when we see these little bombs, we know that we're still, in a way, saying something nice about him as well.
Yes, but even like today, you just open the newspaper and just says what they call ISIS in Iraq, no? Convert or be dead. That's it. No?
do you think that, I mean, there's always been disagreement about whether or not a work of art can actually change anything, whether a work of art can comment, perhaps, but it can't change anything in the real world. Where do you stand on that?
We are standing for change because we do believe that without the art, the artistic people, the philosopher, artists, writers, the world would be a different place. They are the only ones who have what they call towards free speech. They are the only ones who are able to be free people. All the other ones are part of, once you're part of religion, you're not part of free person anymore. Only the free thinkers change the world. And we believe we are part of that. And the art, after all, but can you imagine the Catholic Church without the artists? They were the propagandists of the church.
Sure. I suppose one of the things with this particular exhibition is that at the end of this gallery we have this enormous triptych called Scapegoating. I'm sure most of the people here have been to see it. And it's a whole array of tags, anti-religious
Abuse,
tags, and so on. I want. Do you know what sort of reactions this picture has had from people? Have you had any feedback, personal feedback about it?
We've had a lot of people.
But one was quite good.
The best one was the lady at the opening who came to us and said, we were standing in front of the triptych, and she said, "Gentlemen, I have to tell you, I'm a devout Christian, and I'm deeply offended, but it's amazing, it's fantastic. I really think it's amazing." And she said, "And could I take a photograph? I want to show my vicar." It's very strange, because obviously we have hostility from Christian people sometimes, and we can understand that, but we also have support as well. We went once to Ramsgate to look at Pugins Abbey, and we had to knock on the monastery across the road, and an elderly monk came out and said that he would arrange for us to see the monitor. And, oh, aren't you the artist? Oh, yes, we have many of your publications in our library. It's quite interesting.
Yeah. I mean,
we always think that we're not showing life or reflecting life. We try to think that we're doing something that will make our tomorrows different.
Yeah.
That having seen pictures and seen catalogues, it will make a change within the individual that accumulatively. I mean, the world is a totally different place from 1968 when we emerged as baby artists. And we like to think we've made a small part of that progress.
I think one of the things, I mean, which I was trying to say extremely clumsily when I introduced you, was I know you've spoken before that you feel that every piece of art that you make should contain the past, the present, and the future.
Very important.
And I was wondering if you could explain that a little, because I feel that entirely when I look at your pictures, but I was wondering if you're able to actually put it into words, what you mean by that.
I think it's just that we don't believe in a pure modernity. We think that's artificial. We think that the artwork or the novel or the piece of music has to take account of the past, has to allow that to be part of how it became modern. And then, of course, it has to stand the test of time. Like you were mentioning, we had the Dirty Words pictures. If they were shown today, people would all say, what are those Muslims doing hugging with hats on? Nobody said that in 1977 or 87 or 97. Only now they would see that. Times that we say the picture stays the same, but the world changes around it.
I mean, for us it's very important because in 1969 we realized that we didn't want to make formalistic art. And that's what for us was the biggest revolution. And we fought year after year with that. Because in the moment you don't do just nice shapes or bad shapes or black shapes, you are able to convey the human person with all what they have inside them. That's why we were able to make drinking pieces, we were able to make lonely pieces, we were able to make sexual pieces, or this, all the religious, the anti-this and that, like every human being is inside that. That's what we're trying to be. We have full of feelings inside, no? We just don't have forms. We are unhappy or frustrated on all different levels, and how we think today should be, or what about our friends, no? That's what we make out about it. And that moment, involving the human person, because we always feel everybody is searching for himself in front of the picture.
Yeah, I mean, this is something which I really wanted to ask you about, because over the years, journalists and art writers, art historians of all kinds of different persuasions have attempted to make political readings, not just of your pictures, but of you as people. And I'm wondering, do you ever, as artists, see what you're doing as a political act? I mean, some people would walk into this exhibition and say it's pure politics.
No, we think very simple like that. We think that in a free society where you have the vote, you vote depending on your culture. And that means it depends on what music your parents did or did not dance to, what novels they did or did not read, what background your grandparents had, which part of Britain, whether you live in the country or the city, whether you go to church or read novels. We don't vote as flesh and blood and bone, we vote culturally. And in that way, culture is in advance of politics. We know there's tremendous examples of that. Governments change legislation and policy depending on public opinion. When the people of the country want something bad enough, the government realizes that and changes it quick before they're voted out. That's true for all sorts of policy.
But I think we are more, the whole idea of us is being outsiders. We have never been part of the what you call the establishment, no politics or nothing. Like outsiders speaking from the outside. And all what about politics that we would understand is the free market. No? That everybody is allowed to say yes or no, I want this or I don't want that. The rest we don't care about it.
We do think that if the artistic world and the music world, like all of the pop stars, are supposed to be very original. If you're not original, you won't be a very good pop star. If you want to be an artist, the key thing is to be original. Why is it they all have the same political views? That's always struck us as very, very strange.
I mean, I've also read you've been described as libertarians. I mean, is that, do you think, an accurate, if you had to sort of
We're still trying to work it out for ourselves.
I think the only motto is love thy neighbor.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Interesting.
That's the motto. Don't beat up your neighbour unless, of course, they like it.
Yeah.
That's it. But we always feel that religion stopped everybody being nice to each other, and the progress to more understanding of the human being. They always stop you because they have an agenda. Or you are not part of us. If you are not part of us, we don't want you.
Yeah.
Or you have to convert, and all this strange idea of gods.
It's very strange. They're doing a huge program on television, we noticed, about the Inquisition. I haven't heard that the Catholic Church has apologized yet for that. The bishops in the House of Lords held up the abolition of slavery for 30 years. I never heard them apologize for that.
We prefer Wilkes.
John Wilkes, who the street next to us is named after, invented the free press.
The free press. And
That's important.
and we have to swallow it, but we like it. And that's it.
I mean,
No young person would go to the police station or to the vicarage for advice. They would go to an exhibition or a pop concert or a library or a party. The power of those things is secondary, in fact. Even the church has to change its opinions and its policy depending on when they're dragged screaming into the modern world. They wouldn't do it by themselves. Only when the artists and writers have recommended a different way of life, then the vicars start to think it's better to change a bit rather than get left behind in the water.
I mean, speaking, you just mentioned about Wilkes and about the street near where you live. I mean, as probably everybody knows, you've lived since the late 1960s in Fournier Street in the East End of London. And I know you've made a picture called Fournier World, for instance, but the way that Fournier Street, your relationship to your home and to those streets around your home, Fournier Street more or less becomes your universe, doesn't it?
Yes.
Could you talk a little bit about your relationship as artists to your neighborhood, to your...
What is exciting is a lot of group of pictures that we have edited. We found all the subject in front of our house.
Like literally in front of
in
your
front
house.
of our, you'd open the door and there it is. The drunk is there, the whippet is there, or the religious is there, the Christian on one side, or the other one on the other side. So you just walk along the street. And whatever it is, like we used to collect these stickers, they all become true.
We saw a sticker years ago which we used in the 9 Dark Pictures, which was on all of the lampposts in Brick Lane and all the lampposts in Whitechapel. And nobody, the police or the local, nobody went and took them away. They were regarded as harmless. And it said, "Do you realize our schools are teaching atheism, Christianity and homosexuality and defiling our daughters?" Extraordinary.
And, yeah.
If you had stickers like that with the opposite opinion, there certainly would be people coming around to scrape them off and knocking at the door, and whoever put them there.
Yeah.
So we do believe that where we live and around where we live, that we're on the edge of Cockney land with Bethnal Green, on the edge of the City of London, the financial centre, and then we're honorary Bangladeshis, honorary Cockneys, and we feel that it's like living in the world in a tiny room.
Yeah.
That whatever happens in and around Spitalfields almost certainly will be the reality in the world in 2 or 3 years. And that's always been the case. We always say if a spaceship is arriving on planet Earth and it phones in to say they've only got 3 minutes to film a typical planet Earth place, where should they go? We say Liverpool Street, Brick Lane. That would be, if they went to Zurich, that would be typical 1940s. If they went to New York, it would be typical 1970s.
Yeah.
The look in the eyes of the people and the style and the way of life is so actual where we live.
And I mean, because we are very excited for young people, and we feel our district is full of young, what they call artistic people from all over Europe and the world.
Yeah.
They all want to be there because there is something is happening. And what is happening is creativity. They all want to be somebody. And that is, for us, extraordinary. Never been like that, ever.
It's wonderful that now all the young people that we know and see, they no longer want to be hippies, they no longer want a dead-end job, they all want to do something, they want to get up and go. There's a new mood about the young people. Even if it's opening a cake shop or opening a they're all mad to achieve something. And that's new, that's different. Our generation had a lot of sad old ideas. It is changing.
Yes, because they saw, like when we went to art school and after that, they saw the government had to look after you, or they give you a job, or they give you a teaching job, and forever you are part of that.
Yeah.
And only after 69, 69, that the world changed for us forever, that artists could actually make money out of selling art, and that was totally new. Before that, only foreign artists were able to sell their art internationally, and here very little. But after that, such a revolution, we were able to make a living out of art, and a lot of young artists all became millionaires after that.
It's very good that all those younger artists are Thatcher's babies. They didn't like that. They're still anti-Thatcher, though they can hardly remember it. And we came out of the socialist period, strangely. That's why we say that we're not socialists, but we believe we're the most socialistic of the artists around. Yeah? They came out of art college hoping for a grant or a part-time teaching job. Neither of those things was available to a male duo. Couldn't even dream of it. We had to make our own way, and that was very important.
We were the outsiders that had to make it. That's it. That's why we never stopped working, ever.
And you've never, to the best of my knowledge, allowed yourself to be assimilated into any idea of a school of art or a period or anything.
No.
I mean,
that's been tried. They tried to cause this.
Because we also feel, because when we collect all the articles about art. No, we have thousands and thousands, and sometimes we look through boxes. They're all anti. They're all negative, and that's why we never gave up.
I mean,
Day and night, we want to succeed. That's it.
We learned a very good lesson with the press at a very early stage in our art life, and that was in the early 70s, and we knew a horrible article was going to appear in the next day's newspaper, and so we wanted to go and buy a copy early and get it over and done. We knew it was going to be a horrible review. And as we left our house to go to the newsagents, we saw our neighbor leaving his house for his job in the city with a clearly read copy of that same newspaper. In our heart, we thought this nice man next door just read this awful stuff about us. How embarrassing. He's always thought we were nice, ordinary neighbors. But as he passed, he said, "Good morning, marvelous coverage, wonderful coverage." And we realized that's what it means. It was a page, it was a big image, and very good. And the other experience is recently when we had the Son of a God pictures. And a lady stopped us in the street to say she'd seen the exhibition, and then referring to the press, she said, "It's strange, they don't look, do they? They just don't look." And that was an ordinary person who knew that, that the reviewers will use their own bigotry rather than face the pictures.
It's quite exciting because we were able to keep it all under control.
It's very interesting.
Yes, we were able because the vision was more important than anything else. Like the Pugin vision. That's it. That's always in front of us. Nobody has ever been able to touch that.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. George mentioned a little earlier this astonishing group of pictures you made, I think, in the mid-2000s, called the 9 Dark Pictures. And I was lucky enough to see those in Athens when you first showed them. And it was an intensely emotional group of pictures, it seemed to me. And all of the imagery in those pictures seemed to be of a world that was closing down, almost as though there was a terrible storm coming, and everybody was shutting and closing and sleeping and saying goodbye and farewell and goodness knows what. And shortly after that, the 9/11 attack on the Twin Towers happened. And since then, several people who saw that show in Athens have said that while they know it's fanciful and they don't mean to be in any way disrespectful about those events, but there almost seemed to be something prophetic about the mood those pictures picked up on. And I'm noticing people are responding in a similar way to these pictures. There's a sense in which people feel there's an element of kind of premonition, or that you're divining something, or...
It's very clear. They're dated 2013, but the world is more like these pictures than it was last year already.
Yeah. So do you believe that art, or your art, can have an element of prophecy, that it can involve premonition?
No, I think you
to
just
some
have to
extent?
look.
You just have to look at the world around
Yeah,
you.
we have just look what we see in front of us. We don't have to think anything.
You feel it.
You feel it. We just see it every day, whatever is next.
So it's like an energy you just pick up from...
Yes, because we look, the other ones don't look.
From the street, and also from what young people say.
Mm-hmm.
It must be 2 years ago that a young Bangladesh friend of ours said, "Why is it you people in England are so bigoted and so stubborn and so narrow-minded? Why are you so against Sharia law when you haven't even tried it?" And it was things like that that happen all the time that tell us how the world is heading, how everything will be.
I mean, there are groups of pictures that we make that are something more important than other ones.
For different reasons.
Different reasons, like the like
1999 was extraordinary.
and then like the naked chick pictures.
Yes.
They were extraordinary because nobody knew how to deal with them.
Yeah, yeah. So if we were coming back to this idea of people wanting to, if not define you, then summarize what they feel your art is about, I mean, would you accept the word visionary? Would you?
Visionary?
Visionaries, as in, like, people talk about William Blake as a visionary.
In the classical sense, as an art term.
Like
I think that would be
William Blake.
one way to describe. Yeah.
Yeah.
William Blake is very good because doesn't matter how small an image of William Blake is, you recognize it immediately. It can be as small as a stamp, but it's such a force in the visuals.
I mean, this brings me on to, I suppose, another thing. I've noticed since the mid-2000s, the way in which you've always featured in your pictures, but the way in which you are depicted in your pictures now seems to be changing. And I've noticed over recent years it's become increasingly ghostly. There seems to be far more of a sense of yourselves as kind of psychic presences or ghosts. And I also know, not wanting to give away trade secrets, that you do have a huge library on psychical research.
We're not uninterested in that idea.
But
I
I
think
think
it's very fascinating. We don't say that they're ghosts in the traditional spooky sense, but that people did believe in that, and people do believe in that. And the Psychic Research Society still exists, and that most universities in the world had a psychic research department until probably 1970. It's quite interesting, I think.
Would you connect that idea to what you say about the moral dimension?
Not really.
No?
I mean, I think because I think this, what you call the bits and pieces that are in this, we are taking ourselves away from the image, and we're trying to be part of the, what you call, in the middle of the landscape, or the townscape. We want the townscape to dominate, and only we are just like pieces over the landscape, or spirits, or ghosts, or body parts, or that you don't see this whole simple idea of the living sculpture anymore. Maybe it's because we are getting old.
We remember after the tube and bus bombings in London, seeing suddenly with shock that the parade ground next to Bunhill Fields, which is the army parade ground, a beautiful, huge green lawn, suddenly had a vast plastic tent with big machines pumping air in and refrigeration and everything. And they were dealing with the body parts from the tube and bus bombings. And they're all specialist teams who do that. You have to find out about cloth and papers and documents and limbs. And you see, when you see things happen on television, there are always the 3 plane vans that arrive. And it's quite extraordinary to think that we have to train people to do that. all over the world. In Ukraine at the moment, for instance.
Yet I think we wanted the what you call the background to be more important than us in these pictures.
So my last question, and then I think it would be nice if other people joined in for a while, was could you describe to us, if it's possible, I don't know if any artist can do it, what goes on in your heads when you go into the studio?
Oh, it's very exciting. The exciting is because we already have the images, no? We call it the bank of images, no? When we started a year and a half ago to take images, no? Like we took maybe 10,000 images, and then we source them out into subjects, no? This one, outside, inside, people, out, what they call flowers, non-flowers, or water, up, sky, earth, or workers, or East End of London, all these subjects. And so we have all these books open. We make contact sheets. They're quite big that we can choose. We have to be able to choose which image that is in interest that second. Because 1 hour later there would be another one. We accept that. And so we have these 1,000 images, and they're just we like this one. We take the number down, go into the black room and call it up. And then it is.
It's a magic system that we didn't really understand exactly how it works. And we know that because when we come down to the studio in the morning and see which picture we designed the previous day, we can never reconstruct exactly how we got to that. We can never figure out exactly. So in a way, we have to admit that, like all the psychic people and things, there is an element of automatic that somehow the pictures make themselves to some degree. And it's exactly, because we always say when we go to the studio, we try to go dead-headed, zonked and blind and deaf, and just how we are or how we think the world is now is how the picture will be. Not that we go to the studio with a postcard with some ideas. We never go with ideas. We would only create pictures like ones we've done. It has to come out of nowhere. It has to be lifted out from our existence. You can't snatch them from the air. They have to come out from inside.
But we have the negatives.
We have the negatives there,
but then it is we don't want to know. Our message is we don't want to know. We want to, what you call, it happens in front of us without knowing, and we don't know where we are going, and that's very important to us. Even that's why the next day we have to give it a title. We don't know what it is. We don't want to have an idea what it is exactly before, because it is any second we feel something different. And any second we could go towards something completely different by accident.
Sometimes we call it falling into a new truth.
Right.
You just trip and fall and knock your head and realize some slightly different aspect of human thought that can't be written down in a sentence, that can be done with the picture, is there in the picture. And then it's very exciting.
And then, every day we went down and do this. Then another one, then we do another one, then we go down to another one. And then when all the designs are finished, the designs are 10% of these pictures. And then we make the one-to-one, and then it is extraordinary because we have to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning working, all done by two people and one helper. Everything done by us. And that we are very proud of it. It's all handmade, hand manipulated to exactly what we want.
We think we have these two enormous privileges. One is that we can go into the studio, shut the door behind us, and say exactly what we want in the picture we want to create that day. Nobody can interfere with that. There's no boss, there's no foreman, no government, no church. Nobody can interfere with that.
We never tell the galleries what we do.
Not even the galleries. They never know until it's too late. And then the second privilege is to be able to take those pictures out into the world, to Bermondsey, and then another group of these pictures to Paris. And then we're trying to arrange a tour for public institutions in Italy and in Scandinavia. There's even somebody who wants to do a big show of us in Tasmania. Tasmania. We were so surprised. I thought he said Tanzania.
But yes, it's quite exciting. But it's not only that, because then once we are into that, then we design the shows even. Like I think this show we designed already in January, before finishing the pictures, no? And then we designed the invitation card, we designed what we call advert, we designed the poster, we designed the book, and we designed even table cards, no? Everything is done by us. It has to be a total idea, total artwork, no? From the beginning to the end. Even the whole idea of being interviewed, all that is in some way is part of G&G, what we call artwork, like we always did it. We always advertise ourselves already in '69 and giving away cigarettes and sweets to make people art. Campaign to make people come to see our work. We always did that.
At this stage, would people like to join in? Yes, there's somebody at the back.
I read today that you can. Oh, thank you. I read today that you consider sex to be the second most motivating force, and I was just wondering what was first.
Try it without the mic.
I read today that you consider sex to be the second most powerful motivating force, and I wondered what you consider to be the first and the third.
It will vary. Probably tonight we would say love. As a force, you mean? Yes, I think love would say tonight. Another day we might change our minds. No, we do believe that love is an amazing force. It's when somebody loves to do something, they will achieve it. People love the idea of flying. When they loved it enough, they invented the aeroplane. It was just this amazing desire of wanting something. Yeah? When people say, I'd love you to read this book, it means they really want you to, you probably will read it because of that. We all want to be loved.
Yes.
Anyone else? What a shy bunch.
Yes.
Yes.
Does your love of art make you happy?
We don't so much have a love of art. We have a love of the viewer of art.
Sorry, love of beauty.
Love of creating.
Yeah, love
Yes.
of beauty. Does that make you happy?
I'm not sure what makes us very proud when we achieve what we want. Yeah.
No, we would never ask about happiness or non-happiness, because in some way we are quite miserable, no? But in the but we are proud of being able to be part of this amazing creative thought. No?
It's a great life journey, and we're very keen and proud on that.
No.
Happy we always associate with lying on beaches or something. Maybe that's wrong, but I don't think we believe that we're sent here to enjoy ourselves. We don't believe in that.
No, we never did that. No, I think our goal is our art, and that's it, our vision. Who cares the rest if you're happy or not? I mean, we have what we want. We don't need anything.
Right.
That's why I'm excited, because we only eat baby food, no? We only eat a half portion. We don't need anything. It's quite extraordinary.
I think it would be misleading if people thought we were happy. They probably wouldn't trust us, would
They
they?
would never touch our art.
Hands up those who've heard of a happy artist.
Yes.
I'm a Christian that was at the preview. I'm a Christian that was at the preview that I spoke to that you mentioned earlier.
Oh, yes.
I can't remember ever seeing a piece of art that actually made me gasp because it shocked me so much.
Very good.
And I followed your work since the Dirty Words pictures.
Yes.
And so I've seen all of the things that you used. I just wonder, has there ever been, or will there ever be, anything that is taboo that you wouldn't use in your art?
I'm sure there is. Yes, we know there's always a line. Which we don't want to be sent to prison. We don't want to be killed. we don't want our exhibition taken down in China, for instance. So we self-censored ourselves for that. Even in Russia, we self-censored in advance.
We want it to work.
We don't want to be confrontational in a non-productive way. We want to seduce. We want to be subversive. We want to get away with it. There are a lot of artists who would love it if the police came and closed down the show to show how radical they are. They never get the police to close them down anyway. No, we like very much to get away with it. It's very important.
But we have certain subjects that we like. Like sexuality, religion, and unhappiness, drinking. We had all these subjects.
So there's a gentleman there who just...
Yeah.
I just wondered if you were tempted to try matrix oxide.
Say again?
If you were tempted to try matrix oxide.
No.
Make what?
Not trying, so sniffing it.
Oh, if we tried it? No. But even if we did, we wouldn't tell you.
No. No, we never did drugs.
Apart from gin. Not that we think there's anything wrong with the nitrous oxide as a drug either. It seems it's fairly hard. Somebody knocked at our door the other day and they wanted to sign a petition against the late night opening of off licenses, which brought about young people vomiting on the street and staying up late and singing, and taking drugs and having sex in cars. And would I please sign? And I said, we've never signed against young people enjoying themselves.
No, we only signed pro, never against.
We don't even read if it's for something, we sign immediately.
We never signed against.
We probably sign for some dreadful things, but that's our policy.
Okay. Yes.
I was talking. You said that you don't want to get killed or something like that, but really honestly I'm asking, do you feel safe to walk in the streets of London after an exhibition like that without a
Why not?
Yes, of course, it's a very law-abiding society.
Yes, free thought after all. If you take away free thought, you're a prisoner of yourself. We don't see anything wrong with it. I mean, that's what we see, the east of London, we see this, no?
Somebody said, why are you having these immigrant ladies in the pictures? We said, they're not immigrants. They're British-born subjects, the same as ourselves. We know that because you can overhear their Cockney accents. And why shouldn't burqa ladies be in the pictures? They've been left out of fine art long enough, perhaps.
No, we don't have
our pictures are not harmful in that way. We always go to the gallery with the studio with at least good intentions.
It's very interesting. Coming back to the lady's question earlier, I remember religion and religious imagery has featured in your work probably since almost the very beginning.
Absolutely.
Certainly in your film, The World of Gilbert and George, that begins, I think, with a shot of Christchurch.
With the bells ringing. Yes.
But to the best of my knowledge, you have never, in any form at all, made a comment about God.
No.
Only about religion, which is a separate thing.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, we don't believe in God, so.
Right.
Doesn't mean anything to us.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with having a godless religion.
I prefer the Roman gods. At least they had a drunken god, you know, and a sexual drunk god.
Any? Yes. Sorry, was a lady over there?
Yeah, I was wondering whether you could talk about the relationship between your pictures, which seem to me quite dystopian, and the way you talk about the potential of your art, and in your statements it seems to be quite kind of presenting a utopia and quite optimistic. And the way that you kind of appropriated the antagonism that you perceive that's around you, and what you hope to create from that.
Are we optimistic is roughly the question.
Yeah.
Yeah? No, we're always optimistic. We're not the normal Twitty artists who are critical of George Bush and the bomb and the government and the bomb and all. We like to be, as we said earlier, for things really. No, we think even these pictures are a great celebration of a wonderful, modern, mixed-up, crazy world that we're all living in and managing to get along with. We don't think there's anything wrong with the world in that way. We're all more privileged than we've ever been, especially the Western world. More people can have access to more books and movies and telephone calls and foreign travel and food from all over the world. And there are people in London when we walk to dinner every evening from all over the world. It's an extraordinarily privileged life we all live, really. We can choose which church to go to. There are more different churches here and temples and mosques than anywhere in the world. It's extraordinary.
Was a chap?
Yeah, but in relation to that, I was just kind of wondering if, with the ladies in the work and being such an open society and all, and
sorry, can you more clear?
I was wondering with the ladies in the work.
Yes.
And if you don't find there's like some you are showing some discrimination they are suffering, or that you mentioned also that 50 years ago there were no people in work.
Exactly.
Do you think it's like an evolution that happened, or
Yes, I think it is a revolution happening.
It's an enormous change, isn't it? It's the
Enormous change.
It's the first time in my life you can say good morning to people on 40th Street who don't reply to you, for instance.
It's quite an enormous change.
That's quite different. And we've always been anti-segregation. We thought segregation in North America when we were students was horrible. And they managed to get rid of those black buses and all that nonsense. Enormous pain and suffering and then South Africa was a nightmare. And they managed to get rid of that. And we think the idea of people segregating themselves is also very dangerous and something which we should be attentive about.
Yes, but even for us, it's quite we never saw something like that before. That's why we were interested. It's quite what you call extreme image to have. What you call a faceless person in front of you. That's why we were excited, amazing interested, because there is nothing more powerful in some way than seeing this kind of human beings that faceless.
It's faceless and it's also very modern because you've never seen it before. They have a handbag, they're going to the office or the shop, they have a mobile phone, and even the gloves are black, the shoes are black. When they first started to come along in the mornings, I felt like saying, please accept my sincere condolences.
Just on this picture over here, for instance, the Khilafah, you're wearing what seemed like white face masks. They seem to
The whole modern world now, when we switch on the television, like in South America, in Russia, in Crimea now, or in Ukraine, or in Palestine, they all cover their faces. Everybody. They all have masks to protect their identity.
And we're trying to explore what that feels like to see that in the world. We were even amazed at the funeral of Margaret Thatcher. All the anti-Thatcher people were very proud to be anti-Thatcher and to shout and be there, but they weren't proud to show their faces. They all had masks or scarves over their faces. That's something very, very modern in a way. The balaclava was, when we were children, was something for very cold, wintry days.
Or gangsters.
Or crooks, or bank robbers. That changed.
Do you think, for example, the Middle Eastern wars are really a matter of religion?
Yes, and nothing else.
Yes, of course. Faith is more strong there. You're not allowed to not be of the faith. It says in today's newspaper, convert or die. Yes. At least in the West, we can choose to be. We like the religion we like is like the Unitarian Church, which exists all over the world. And there's one in Stoke Newington. It says outside, we welcome people of all faiths and none. I think that's perfect.
Yeah, I mean, the West took 300 years to liberate ourselves from Rome. Before there were Inquisition, everybody didn't believe they were able to cut their heart out or terrorize them forever. And that's only what you call the free thought changed that. And we were able to liberate ourselves from Rome. And why shouldn't, I mean, that's it. You're a human person. You are not part of what you call doctrine or totalitarian regime of churches.
If you think of the privileged world we're in, like in this street tonight with the gallery and having a talk, the Western world is just really Europe, a little Scandinavia, North America, Australasia, and a few outposts like Singapore or Japan. The rest is in an enormous turmoil. Enormous dangerous. You see dead people coming from the airport to your hotel.
They're stoning queers all over Africa.
Hanging people, stabbing people. It's a nightmare outside our privileged world.
And in some ways, all based on religion. Because you are not allowed to, you are not allowed to be a person.
Burning churches in Africa.
Could I ask the audience, just a show of hands, how many people would agree with that statement? That most of the suffering in the world is due to religion? That's quite a lot. Yeah. Thank you. Sorry.
Anyone else before we?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Have you ever, do you think, you'll ever be given an award for your service as a British Art, or do you think you're too much?
No, we won't be given medals because we're not anti-establishment. That's the reason.
What?
We wouldn't get a gong because we're
the gongs.
If you're anti-establishment, then you get it, you know, roughly speaking. If you take drugs and play guitars for a few years, you're united.
Maybe we've got one last question. Yes, lady.
I just had more of a technical question
Yes, of
about
course.
how you felt the advancement of technology had impacted upon the way that you create your images and your production process, and how you kind of adapted to changes, or have you always kind of followed the same formula in your production?
Of course. Technique for us was always a very, very, very personal thing, because we didn't start out as all artists or picture makers or children or amateur artists. They all start with the sketchbook and the canvas and a row of colors. They had the full, whether it's crayons or paints or poster paints. We started as sculpture, so we had to find a way to make a new language. We had what we felt was new things to say, so we wanted a new form. And we started off by using the negative.
Yes. I think that was quite interesting, because our form is a new form, and we fought for that form for many, many years, because at the beginning we didn't know how to make what you call, like, with photographic material and Rembrandt. No? Every time when we first started out, when we did an artwork, they would say, oh, you have to go down to the basement, because this kind of form is not accepted as art. No? That was done. But we realized that it is more powerful than painting. Much more powerful, and it is more real and more true. That's why. And we are able to speak through that language that looks very up to date, and especially now that we change from what we call going larger to a computer. It's a total freedom. And the total modern, it looks totally different, it speaks different. And it doesn't date so much.
And we can prove that the superiority of the negative image, because if you have a display in a museum and you have a naked figure from tribal Africa, and then you have a naked marble statue of a lady, and then you have some naked and an etching and a naked oil painting, that's all fine. But if you have a life-size image taken with a negative, already you have trouble. It will mean more. Maybe the others were all made up. Maybe that marble lady never existed, it was just invented. To look at the image that's actually part of that world is a much more important. That's why they sent home all the sketches in the middle of the Boer War, when they found out you can do it with cameras and moving cameras. It's more powerful, more actual. That's why you have surveillance cameras, not surveillance sketches.
I think that's kind of coming sadly to the end.
There you go.
I just want to firstly to thank you all very much for coming to the talk, and also for asking such great questions. And secondly, I've been lucky enough to know Gilbert and George for a while, and when I first got to know them, people used to ask me questions about their lives and about the way they live and so on, which I obviously never answered. But one thing I have learned is that there is no time off for Gilbert and George. You know, it's not just an art thing, it's not just a kind of, it's a total dedication. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, they are Gilbert and George, I promise you. And they are dedicated solely to nothing more than the realization of their vision. And not wanting to be corny, but I think to get the chance to hear them talk so openly and generously about what they do is kind of a great privilege. So thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. Thank you much. Fantastic.